Welcome. This is the March 20th bhyve production user call. We have Andrew, Eva, Jan, Alexei, and myself, Michael, so far. If you have a free few minutes and you want to hear a little about my philosophy, you can check out the My Open Source Experience, MOSE podcast. They just posted an interview with me. And heads up, the FreeBSD 14.3 code slash is about a month away. If there are features you want MFC'd into 14.3, now is the time to get serious about testing those and arguing your use case and justification for including them and showing your work that you know they're reliable. Let's talk non-x86 virtualization. There was a recent patch of like the RISC-V VMM bits, as they put it, and then there's definitely progress on ARM64. Eva, I believe you brought this up. And you are muted. And Alexei, your keyboard is remarkably loud. I will mute you.
Oh.
Yes, I do have questions about the ARM aspect. Basically, I wanted to go over sort of like a meta review of the status of feature parity that we have with bhyve to virtualization on Linux as it relates to ARM.
Got it. Could you characterize on, I'm guessing KVM and maybe even Zen, has GNU Linux entered the promised land, or are there still rough edges?
Oh, as far as ARM,
Yes.
as far as I'm aware, it is doing just fine. There's persistent development, but for the major platforms that it's virtualizing against, there's parity across those between x86 and ARM64.
Does that extend into fancy features like live or near live migration and state saving?
That usually isn't a part of the underlying virtualization infrastructure, more so than the architecture that it's running for the virtual machine. Yeah.
Okay. Let's maybe do a quick inventory of what we all have on hand for targeting. Systems on hand. And this is not like, hey, come break into our houses and apartments to go for these things. But are there platforms that you have, Eva, on hand that you want to focus on and bring into first class support?
Well, I would love to focus more on the Power 9 architecture, but since that's not a tier 1 focus for FreeBSD at the moment, then it's probably not going to, be terribly good for us to focus any of our time on it as well, right? Like it's a whole other thing to solve. So
it is there a Power 9 person currently in FreeBSD land? Because I know people have been kind of on again, off again, but without developer buy-in, it can be a challenge, obviously.
That is a good question. I do not know.
If I remember correctly, Mark Lemon has at least Power 8. I don't know about Power 9 or 10 system. But the big problem is that there is no build infrastructure for it. So just look at how old the last current snapshots for PowerPC are. And the same is true for packages and so on. So someone would have to have a connection effectively to the cluster and release engineering teams to make the platform consumable again without bootstrapping it yourself effectively, or be willing to accept the overhead and power bill at the very least to have kind of an unofficial repository of snapshots and just read the release scripts until you understand them well enough to release build artifacts.
Here and now,
is a good point.
It's really annoying.
Go ahead. So sorry.
So I have let's see, I have 5 total Power 9 systems.
Interesting.
One of them is in storage down the street with all the rest of my stuff. And then 4 of them are in the data center in Fremont with my other systems. So they're already, interact. Everything's paid for and
Nice.
they're there, they're ready to use, whatever. And we can absolutely dedicate one or more of those systems for the build infrastructure.
What OS are they
case-
running? Sorry, if I may.
We can have those run either Linux or FreeBSD.
Okay.
And then if we want to spin up a bunch of virtual machines for the build infrastructure, then it would make sense to have one of those systems running Linux, making FreeBSD VMs.
Does it cross build without issues?
Last time I was working on it, yes,
Great. Okay.
but it was very minimal. So,
Yeah.
that was like, I don't know, 2 years ago, I guess.
Okay. Welcome, Ivan. Do you have any topics as we get organized here?
Well, no, I joined just to listen, really.
Okay, welcome. You are absolutely welcome to listen. We are talking about other platforms beyond AMD 64 for bhyve. And we went deep catalog on Power 9, which I do not believe there's been any official VMM progress on. But let's work our way back to, say, RISC-V. You mentioned, Eva, that you have several RISC-V platforms.
I do. I have a number of embedded systems that we could use for that.
Okay.
They are presently not doing anything.
Do they spin up easily with the presumably VM images for RISC-V, which I sure hope they've been building? I'll take a quick look. Downloads.freebsd.org.
So I think the situation is similar to how it is with single board computers on ARM-based chips. That it's a problem that, yes, there are images, and on a lot of the boards they're built for, they will just boot, but what's missing is the ability to update such systems other than by just recompiling from source locally, which takes a lot of time on these systems, and some of them don't even have enough memory to recompile themselves without heavily swapping, and the 32-bit architectures may not even have enough usable address space, especially if you're still on 13, where the bug was never fixed that you only get to use a 2 gig address space on ARM v7 effectively. And yeah.
Okay.
So you may just run out of address space while linking.
So good news. There are 15 current VM images that are, I'm guessing that hopefully whatever loader they is standard. I don't know if they're UEFI, but there's that link. I'll drop it in chat. And I will hop up the directory and see if there are power ones. But I'm going to be a little more skeptical on that. Let's see. So in case it isn't obvious, Release Engineering, thank you, Glenn, has been producing weekly snapshots and now VM images and now ZFS-based VM images. And I've been running with those in my Imagine script. And the top platforms that are supported by this are one more directory up and
okay, someone has fixed the builds apparently, because we get up-to-date PowerPC 64-bit install ISOs.
so
Let's see about ports and packages. What's the status here for tier 2 architectures on PowerPC? Power is here. 64LE is effectively the architecture. Yeah, but so the last update here is latest is built, but so it looks like the last build was from February 28th
for ports or what?
of 2024.
Oh, okay. For what exactly?
PowerPC 64-bit little endian uh, on 15 current. So the binary packages are very much out of date. Yep. So the big endian is also right around that time. So I assume that nobody has run the ports build jobs since almost a year ago on that architecture through the official project build infrastructure.
That was
So
February of
something must
24.
have died like a year ago, and nobody cared enough to fix it by now, or at least nobody screamed for help when we
Hmm.
tried to fix it and failed. I know that some of the people who've tried to advance PowerPC have given up because of frustration with, yeah, bureaucracy, uh, because they wanted to hack on PowerPC, not operate the project bureaucracy.
Okay. Are new Power 9 or 10 or whatever systems available for purchase here and now, regardless of price?
Yes,
Okay.
you
And
can buy Power at least 9 and 10. I don't know if 8 is still actively sold, but you can probably get them easily enough over this used market in the continental US at least.
and are there developer-oriented systems that are, say, under $2,500 or euros as opposed to government servers
Yeah,
for
about
25 million?
the smaller configurations of the Talos workstation should start around 2000, 2500 new.
Oh, there's Talos is still at it. Do you have a link for them?
Uh,
If you could, that'd be great.
Not really, but it should be easy to come by.
Cool. Um, I have nudged Mark to join, who was joining quite enthusiastically prior to his release of Patch QA. I think he's taking a break, and we it would be optimal if there were VM images that just drop into a Talos Raptor. Thank you for that link. And one could at least have an up and running system in minutes rather than months. That's my take on modern computing. Eva, I don't want to say you break it, you bought it, but we definitely need some developer support of this.
Oh,
Although
absolutely. If someone
reportedly
wants to use the Talos, we can assign it to a developer.
it's
It
available.
just
Okay,
needs to be
that's good to
taken
know.
out of storage. Yeah, it's just down the street.
Oof, okay. Um, there was where was it? I believe EuroBSDCon, there was a rather bullish Power 9 presentation, and with the comment of, well, you're going to see RISC-V fragment so aggressively that no, you really want things like Power. I believe it was in Vienna. Um, that will take some wetware wrangling just to find out who's doing what, why those builds petered off in 2024. Is there, say, release engineering infrastructure to spin up weekly Power 9 compatible snapshots, etc.? Then, of course, even if it were a first-class platform on FreeBSD and perhaps even Lumos, well, then we have the question of the whole virtualization aspect, which brings us together to this call today. As I recall, IBM is a relatively well-funded organization. Hopefully there is some interest there, and we can sort of piggyback off the interest in ARM64 to get some movement there. That said, let's take a brief moment to RISC. It sounds like you have RISC hardware available. I confess I have a board that I could only get Linux up and running on, not FreeBSD, the little ITX board from some time ago. Show of hands, who has RISC-V hardware within reach? Eva does. I have the one.
I have one somewhere on my desk, but it's lost under the paperwork.
Okay.
But it's only like milk V board, so 64 megs of RAM
Okay.
and about a like microcontroller sized board, but it has a 64-bit RISC-V core on it. Just have to it slipped underneath. Found it.
You found it. Great. Okay, well, do all RISC-64 systems have virtualization, or is that an a la carte feature that could be equally on or equally off on any given
Oh,
board?
you're so funny. RISC-V hasn't even agreed to standardize hypervisor mode.
Okay.
So there is no agreed upon standard to have hardware virtualization on RISC-V. I think some of the vendors have done something and implemented stuff. And you could, of course, argue that you don't need a special mode. But without it, there is no portable hypervisor.
Alrighty, so that will be an uphill battle, and I don't have maybe it was, the person working on the ARM Snow system. Ruslan, I think Ruslan did the bits there. FreeBSD RISC-V. So let's work our way back a little closer to home. ARM64, that at least I have seen it with my own eyes, and I have hardware within reach laughing at me, trying to get my attention. I will first think it's a question of AMD 64 feature compatibility, because I found that it still had the 16 vCPU limit that bhyve on AMD 64 had long ago. That could use some attention. I have no idea if there's any notion of, say, PCI pass-through. And there is a wiki page that's on RISC-V. Let's take a peek on that, or actually reviews. So, do we know if the Raspberry Pi, say, within reach 400 and 500 have the hardware facilities to provide virtualization?
They do, but I think the problem is that the earlier ones have the old interrupt controller, so the CPU is capable, but you would have to deal with a very painful problem for the interrupt virtualization because the global interrupt controller version 2, the old one, lacks the ability to be reset once it started, so that you cannot do it like you would do on a appropriate architecture to have interrupt virtualization and so on. The newer chips, definitely Raspberry Pi 5 and Pi 500, have the features in hardware, but there we have the problem that, as far as I know, Raspberry Pi support for the Raspberry Pi 5th generation has not materialized in FreeBSD yet, as far as I know.
Oh, good to
So,
know.
and we may be lucky. I'm not sure about the Raspberry Pi 400 and Raspberry Pi 4, but I know that the FreeB Plus is stuck with the old interrupt controller, even if the CPU is capable. And the ones before that also have so old CPUs that they're definitely not capable of hardware-assisted virtualization.
Is that the 4B Plus or earlier?
No, the FreeB Plus had it.
3?
Yeah, but it has the flawed interrupt controller, the old one, which is not intended to be used for virtualization. So it's a case of, the CPU has the feature, but the whole system is effectively not virtualizable.
Okay.
The 4, I'm not sure which interrupt controller it has. The 5, I know that it has the new interrupt controller, but FreeBSD support for that set of boards is lacking as far as I know. So yeah,
Okay.
it
Briefly.
may work with once you've loaded a UEFI bootloader on it, and then kind of chain boot from the custom bootloader into UEFI, and then boot the UEFI image. That's kind of what OpenBSD did to get it up and running, so that they boot the most modern Raspberry Pis with UEFI instead of their normal bootloader for that Raspberry Pi chip. But hey,
Brief segue. Andrew, I have been watching for posts from, say, Rich Lowe on ARM64 Illumos for a rather long time. Have you heard any news in that department?
No, I'm not following ARM stuff very much at all right now.
I'll drop a link in the chat.
oh, the wiki claims the situation is better than I just described.
On which platform? Raspberry
Raspberry Pi
Pi?
5.
Oh, feel free to highlight a link here and drop it in or drop
I
it in
dropped the
whatever
link
you
in
did.
the chat.
Good work, yay.
Apparently it's usable with Raspberry Pi, and you have to go through a UEFI boot stage, but that's reasonable because that's what ARM wants you to do, despite what we may
Come on.
like or dislike about UEFI. It's the only standardized interface with any adoption we have for bringing the portability we're used to from PCs to ARM, so that you don't need a bespoke install image for every ARM board.
Exactly. Oh, I know. Yes. Don't get me started. Got it. Better. Thank you for that link. Better than expected. Although, are you seeing Raspberry Pi 5 builds of any kind, or it's just upstream?
Look at the page, please.
Okay, I'm getting there. Let me link it, and there it is. And let's hop in there. And Alexei, thank you for being hanging tight. This is a perfect segue to your EDK2 news, which included AMD 64. So we'll get ARM 64. We'll get there in a second. Oh, too many acronyms in life. Let's see. Oh, hello. Raspberry Pi 5 SD card. Download an image. Okay, use a 4 image.
Okay, yep. I got mentioned.
Oh, just one sec.
Sorry
Let's
for
take a
being
quick
too
look at
close to my
this.
microphone.
No worries, you sound great. When was this? Fortunately, in February. I'm going to hit edit here. Just one sec. Let's see. This was when. Info is your friend. February of this year. Excellent. Then Paul Floyd and Kurt and other people. Well, this is exciting. Then hopefully this does not require a whole lot of hacking to boot. And Alexei, for our collective growing wish list, let's see if this can be hacked to a build and a boot on the Raspberry Pi 500 in the other room. So let's, do we have any other points or topics on VMM support on non-AMD 64 platforms, or shall we segue into EDK2 and segue back as appropriate? Deep breath. Okay. Let's hear from you, Alexei. That you have some great news. It was very cool. Go ahead and share what you've
Yeah.
come up with this last
We
week.
ported the latest 2025 release of EDK2.
Yay!
I mean, made it compile. It just needed some submodules and a fix for the build part of it, of the makefile. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised
right
how
now,
smoothly that went. Go ahead.
Yep. Right now, I'm trying to make a pull request for adding the logo of bhyve to the firmware. And I'm having quite some fun reading the documentation about pull requests here because it's actually quite strict.
To EDK2?
Yeah.
And okay, so step back. You had suggested putting the logo in the FreeBSD port, but then someone suggested you do it upstream. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And why upstream? Do they truly care that much? I'm glad that they've included most patches for FreeBSD, and hopefully.
I mean, the port.
Yeah.
They say just don't take up that much space in port tree for files.
Okay, fine. I'll bite.
And just the fact that the port tree is plain text We're gonna have to include either a binary file, either encoded as base 64 and
Oh,
then
goodness.
decoded
I see.
during the build.
Well, then let's talk
Uh,
about the strict
How large is the
EDK2
file?
pull request process. How large is that?
I mean, some size. Let me see.
Yeah, I sent you one that was handcrafted not
Pictures.
too long ago.
About 11 kilobytes.
Look at. Why do you ask, Jan? Do you think there are port rules that guide that?
No, it's just that if it's that small, it's probably feasible to just base 64 encode it in ports and then use the base system base 64 command to decode it. But the question is, why do we need the bhyve logo
Well, I've just put it on
or the
screen,
EDA,
loading Windows.
any other logo? And the other question is, which formats does it support? If it's really this simple logo, there may be a way to get it even smaller if it supports any compressed formats, which aren't JPEG.
Oh, was it
So
BMP, as I recall, that they only support?
It only supports the BMP.
Okay. Another hack you could have is, okay, you could have some instructions to generate the file effectively at build time, or have a dependency
like
on, I don't know, whatever.
SVG
Something to
Oh,
SVG
goodness.
to
Oh.
whatever.
SVG, they'll probably need like what's it called, Ghost script. They'll pull
Yeah.
a pretty large dependency, I think.
No, I was thinking on image magic, but yes,
Oh boy.
or whatever.
No, that's a pretty large dependency. No.
It is. It is.
Wow, that's a fascinating solution, and I do appreciate your
I
creativity.
mean, the other option is to have a
Goodness.
tiny little command. If it's an uncompressed BMP, you could just write a little C program to emit BMP because it's fixed header followed by stuff. But again, is that worth it? Or should we just accept a base 64 encoded blob and forget about it because it's not going to change frequently, so it's not going to blow up the port repository size in a meaningful way. So yes, it's not elegant to have a base 64 encoded blob, but it also shouldn't be the end of the world.
Okay, my idea is probably to because BMPs have a very large contiguous chunks of data. We can probably do like BMP gzipped or xzipped, and on top of that,
Exactly,
base64.
that was what
Yeah.
I just remember. Given that it's so that trivial image, if you take the binary image, bzipped or whatever, ZSTD, LZ4, try a bunch of different compressors and base, the BMP, and then base 64 encode that, it should get down to a size where nobody has reason to complain about the wasted space. Do you have the BMP ready for me to tinker with?
Oh,
See
okay,
how
well,
far I can
yes.
get it down.
there's that, but first off, user poll. Do we want no logo, as you, Jan, mentioned, or the Tayano Core logo that I personally have never liked, or do we want a bhyve logo like I have on
Oh,
screen?
I'm perfectly fine with having one. I just wanted to know why the file should be part. So if it's displayed on the video output during or VNC server during boot, that makes it useful.
Cool.
Okay, people
I
know
thought it
it's
was awesome.
booting. Yeah, it is. But it wasn't obvious to me why you would want to have a logo in the firmware. But if it is, because I never boot my BIVMs with a graphical boot splash screen, I just have a serial console. So yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. So there's consensus, at least among the 5 or so of us, that, hey, yeah, it's kind of cool. Related, the initialization was so quick that it was hard to get a screen capture of this that you see on screen. It was great. It was like, boop, suddenly a VM.
I
loading.
definitely
Love it.
am not in favor of slowing down the boot process so you have time to revel in
Make coffee, et cetera.
the
Okay.
presence of the splash screen.
We did not put a delay in. Thank you very much. So that said,
Yeah, don't put it
Alex,
at
it
5
sounds
centimeters.
like the proper way to do this is to upstream it to EDK2. They are fine with any such images where you are pulling all those samples from in the first place. Should we just go that route and not look at you encoding or converting from SVG with image magic on the build?
No, it's
At
just
build
put
time or
the
something crazy?
just put the BMP as base64 in the ports.
Is that
And-
done elsewhere?
Oh, wait. I kind of just ADHD'd out of the conversation for a second. Can we?
No worries.
Can we repeat?
So do we have examples of other ports that do a graphics re-encoding or generation to get around the desire
Let
to
me
not have
see.
binaries?
Do we have
User
the
ports
um,
X11.
This week in the weeds.
Teams.
Yes,
X11
Eva.
Teams.
where
Let's just
can I
find
find
like,
the BMP file?
it's on my Git repo. It's in the commits because I deleted it for now.
And
Let me just send over the link to it.
Yeah, that would be helpful because then I will just try a bunch of things to get the base64 encoded file size down, because I think it's perfectly reasonable to losslessly compress that BMP with one of the compressors in base and with it, yeah.
Browse files. Here we go. Files and the logo.bmp. Chat. I cannot paste it for some reason. Again, not pasted. Here on, we get the simple bhyve logo. Save image as.
Thank you.
Wait, no, that's the wrong. I think that's the wrong logo. Yeah, that's the wrong logo, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, use that one I generated. That all the horizontal elements are not anti-aliased as best I could.
Yeah, let me find that one.
Cool. Okay, and I assume it didn't make it to your bug report because you were advised not to, correct?
Here we go.
Yay.
Yeah, this is the one.
On the chat or where?
bhyve logo already exists on desktop. Replace, I guess. How do I send it over? Chat. File. Desktop. bhyve logo. Here we go. This is the real one.
Okay, let's take a look. There we go. Thank you. You've done
263 kilobytes. Oh wow.
that.
Can
My
we
day.
make the image resolution smaller?
Well, that's a question. It's pretty, and I was going that route because of the anti-aliasing. So I'm happy to revisit that. And is that the correct one? So zoom way in, and you'll see that the horizontal.
I mean, on the
elements are
default
not blurry.
on default bhyve screen resolution of the VNC, the image looks like way too large.
Okay.
So ZSDD gets that file size down to 7.2 kilobytes without any further flags.
Okay. Alexei, what is the default frame buffer resolution?
Let me see. Mod bhyve config or just bhyve fbuff. Does it not say here?
I don't think it does. So we'd have to spin up a system.
I
Okay.
think so. 800 by 600 is quite
Let me
common.
just go to VM's directory sudo sh example.sh Tiger VNC viewer. Boom. It is let me take a screenshot. It is 1028 by 700 and something.
It's 20, I'm hoping 24, but I could be wrong. Okay, interesting.
724, something like that, yeah.
Okay, well, noted. Maybe it's too big. I can tinker with anti-aliasing that down. I just don't want it to get ugly in the process. And I'm thinking to like Lenovo logos that are giant, and so there are precedences for rather large logos. Anyway,
I
where
think
were
that
we?
one there is fine for what it's worth.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, let's at least start here and see what the world says. Alex and I spent quite some time on determining the formats and the limits and other examples, and this was a compromise based on everything we learned. So, has your bug report, although it's a baby review, if you will, received much feedback yet, although it's been up for just what, hours or days?
Let's see.
Let's see. We've got you. Nope. Okay. This is
Nobody.
one to watch, and everyone on FreeBSD present, please give that a test. And please explain the relationship of this to, say, ARM64 and potentially other platforms.
Yeah, but I've noticed it fixed some bugs with bhyve,
Okay.
like it crashed on memtest.
Oh, is it no longer crashing on memtest, or it
Yeah.
added
Do you
that?
remember at the
Oh,
time
yes,
bhyve crashed on
absolutely.
memtest? And also the
Cool.
GNU libc bug in Linux.
Let him
yeah,
finish.
that's
Did they
probably
patch the GNU
because of
libc
changing
Let
on?
him
the
finish,
ACPI
please,
tables.
Jan. Please, just hold
Question:
tight.
Did they patch GNU libc crashing on Linux in FreeBSD 15?
That review has been very active. So Q libc on Linux fixes.
If that has not been patched yet, then that means EDK2. Just this update fixed it.
How would it?
Because we no
Okay,
longer
cool.
have
I
this
won't
glitch
argue.
anymore.
Interesting. Okay, I thought those would be unrelated, but I'll take it. What else have you observed?
Remember the Windows crashing on HW Info?
Yeah.
It still crashes, but it gets much further.
Okay.
Before that, it was crashing as soon as it was trying to detect the CPU sensors on. It was just typing CPU 0 detecting and bring the VM down. Now it gets you every single CPU core, and only crashing after it tries getting like RAM, I think. And maybe that's just an issue because I forgot some arguments for bhyve. So maybe it's already like working fine.
Cool. Okay, that's good news. Okay. I'll do a quick look for the libc review, which was a pretty hot topic and quite unexpected. Libc. I believe glibc. No. So does this build out of the gate with ARM64, or did you have a separate build process for that?
They should just build like the normal port.
Okay.
So you run make, and the default. I switched the default flavor.
Okay.
So now the default flavor is bhyve. Before that, the default flavor was macchiato bin.
Oh, interesting.
Now, if you just run make in the directory, it will build the bhyve executable. I mean, the firmware. I should probably mention that in the bugs. Wait a second. I should probably mention that. Because I already forgot about it.
Jan, just one sec. So it looks like what they have MFC'd this perhaps. There was a more complex than expected discussion about this glibc bug in Linux land, where I guess bhyve would report some, I think it was memory way the heck off of kilter. Go ahead, Jan, and especially if you have insights on this one.
No, I just tried to compress the logo file with lossless compression by applying ZSTD compression, because we have a compressor and base as FreeBSD. So you can compress the logo down from 264 kilobytes to 5.4 kilobytes. And with base64 to make it a text file, it's only up to 7.3 kilobytes.
7. Okay, cool.
Yeah, 7.3.
7.3, sure. Okay.
Okay, let me.
That doesn't create any quality reduction because it's lossless compression.
Okay.
You have and you could just have a target in the makefile decompress that.
Elibc. Okay. Thank you everyone for your patience on us jumping all over the map on this call, but this is all great stuff. MF seed, but not closed. Okay. That's making progress. Like least expected bug ever. So your question, AMD64, you are saying that the same port builds with different build syntax, or is there a different code?
The same build syntax if you just build specific flavor.
Okay.
It's like make flavor equals and what you want to build. So for example, rpy4, like this.
Oh, okay. Great.
But if you just type make without anything, it will make the bhyve port now instead of macchiato bin.
And is that in general on this EDK2 port?
EDK2.
Okay.
Just EDK2 port now. Yeah.
Well, I suspect you will get a lot of feedback and be prepared for that, but it's all for good reason. So there will be opinions that I will not even speculate as to what they will be. But yes, Jan, what you got?
Given the CPU power of those ARM single board systems, you will get pissed off users when you require them to build the custom flavors to get a bootloader update. So I hope that the ports will be built with all the flavors, which at least on AMD 64 is the default, but I don't know about ARM 64. As long as it only changes the name, I don't know if there's a good way to just have the packet track the package rename. So what used to be just whatever package name is now whatever package name dash macchiato bin or Raspberry Pi 4. And if it's not specific to the Raspberry Pi 4, but Raspberry Pi 5 as well, maybe the name Raspberry Pi 4 is a bit confusing.
Okay. Did that make sense, Alexei? Okay. I'm putting some action
As I
items
understand
in.
on power
So
systems,
go
we
ahead.
can only build the ARM images, by the way.
Repeat that?
As I understand from the GCC packages for cross compilation, we can only build the ARM firmware from PowerPC.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because there is no cross compilation GCC for like unknown ELF AMD 64.
Okay. Oh, and as I recall, this does not build with Clang LLVM, and
Yes,
have a nice
it
day. And no
requires
one has
GCC.
spent a month of their summer or whatever to make that work. Any and all insights are welcome there.
I tried forcing it in my hotkey script that I was making before, but it just does not. It just
Okay.
refuses.
Okay. Other things to do here. I'll do what I can, but I hope everyone can just jump in and take at least one look at each little corner of these things. Power 9, Lumos. Okay. Great work, Alexei. I look forward to the feedback you receive. There are so many moving parts in EDK2, like I believe iSCSI boot and HTTP net booting and things that will definitely need some laboratory spin up to test properly. So I hope people will jump in and do that.
Question for Eva.
Please.
If Eva's here,
available.
can we get an SSH to a Power 9 machine?
Yes, I have to set up remote access to that, so I'll set up a VPN account for users that will need that.
What are your
I'll try
VPN
building,
solutions of
I'll try building
choice?
EDK2 on Power 9. Just the ARM builds. There should be EDK2 flavors for PowerPC, but we're gonna have to add those to the package.
Okay.
Let me see. EDK2 PowerPC.
So they gave up on open firmware.
Yeah, there is firmware for.
Oh, I haven't heard open
There is
firmware in years. Wow, thank you, Jan.
It used to be the firmware for power machines.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Wow.
Also Spark, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, and
Ah.
Power Max and so on.
Mm,
I liked open firmware.
yeah,
I
flashback.
had a lot of fun implementing Sudoku solver when my disk was broken, because I could store the fourth code for it in the NVRAM so that I could have something to do on a vacation without
I was about to say I liked fourth, so
You use a past tense there. What's up with that?
I haven't used it in years.
Okay. Cool. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, Eva and Alexei, feel free to connect there on access. And Eva, thank you so much for your broader offer of access to machines.
Okay, we can probably add EDK2 porting ports, not in the main port, but like as a separate port for. Wait, why am I talking so slowly?
That's pretty quick. Thank you very much. At this
Okay,
hour.
for Rockchip,
Yes.
here's a port for Rockchip.
Mhm.
This is a separate Git repo. That's why I don't think we can add it to just the main make file. But this
Nope.
is EDK2 for Orange Pi and MNC Reform PCs.
But there is precedence for ports including make files from other ports. For example, LDAP once used to do it for ages. The client port included the make file from the server port and then changed just a few variable assignments. I don't know if that's frowned upon, but at least there's precedence.
Okay.
Oh no, there's EDK2 for phones here. Oh no. Yeah, that's the one that I run on my phone.
Oh boy. I'll hold that thought, but oh, I'm scrolling the wrong screen. How's your hypervisor on your phone? Not to change topics.
Yeah, I installed a different OS on my phone. Now it's
Yeah.
LineageOS and not a Graphene OS.
Okay.
So, experience.
Briefly.
Keyboard starts.
Let's not lose. Okay. Go
Keyboard
ahead.
starts every 5 attempts.
Oh.
Other
yeah.
times it just segfaults or crashes with some random core dump. I don't know why.
Okay.
I have to use Android Debug Bridge to access root user on the phone because Android is a very secure platform
Mm.
that does not give root user to any process except like the init system.
Okay. Jan has a question. Does it support all cores or is it maybe hard-coded to a single core?
All cores, yeah, it can run SMP.
No,
I could
what I
not
meant
manage to run
is
freebies in it. All
what I
cores,
meant is sorry.
all CPUs.
What I meant is that some cursed ARM-based systems on a chip do not support the same instruction set on all cores. So it could be that some instruction set extension required to run QEMU is only available on certain cores. So depending on where your QEMU process gets scheduled, it may just crash with some signal like illegal instruction.
Oh, that may be a thing. That may be why it
I
crashed for me.
mean, the most cursed system on a chip I've ever read about was basically unsupportable without custom quirks because they had different cache line lengths on different cores. So some cores had 64-byte cache lines and others 32-byte cache lines. And when you probed them, you could have probed them, then you got rescheduled, and suddenly you're only flushing every other cache line, which
Goodness.
of course would result in total corruption anytime you have self-modifying code, like when you run a loader or have some kind of JIT. And they've just violated the architecture specification by parameterizing the two sets of cores differently. And ARM basically just said, what have you done? We cannot support this. But they sold it anyway and patched the kernel to make it work.
I have run Android on like Intel. Is there a piece of hardware, say a Raspberry Pi or otherwise, that will run Android and allows for a little more flexible testing of such things? More
Some of the
desktop-like
single
Android?
board,
Yeah.
some of the single board computers support Android for kiosk systems and so on.
Okay.
And so some of the vendors may even provide a reference Android image, but do not expect any updates or kernel
Right.
sources.
Alexei, did you mention booting FreeBSD under that?
Under KVM, I could not boot FreeBSD under that. We can try right now.
Okay, well, let's get through some of the bhyve topics, but I am curious. I have absolute morbid curiosity on
We just
that.
pkg install Chemo on the phone.
Okay, love it.
pkg is alias to apt here because this is a Debian environment, just Debian C root.
Okay.
And to answer your question, it appears that yes, you can run Android on a Raspberry Pi.
Ooh, thank you, Andrew. Okay, Andrew.
I need to head out. I will
Okay.
talk to you guys later.
Super, take care. Maybe
Okay,
check out the
Shogri.
video. I've got a bunch of Windowsy stuff that may interest you, or we save it for next week. Go ahead, Alexei. Take care, Andrew.
pkg search. What's the Chemo package name here?
Oh, goodness.
I have to do this, all the console commands on the phones, like
goodness.
virtual
Good
keyboard.
point.
Oh, no.
Does it support an external keyboard? You could probably do a USB-C hub and have a nice.
I'm connected via USB-C to my PC.
Okay. Oh,
So I
for
need
the
like USB debugging.
debugging. Okay.
It's Chemo system Arch 64 headless.
Okay.
System Arch 64 headless. That's the package I need. Oh, that's a lot of dependencies. I cannot screen share because yeah, that's on my phone.
Okay, and it's a slightly off topic for bhyve.
Yeah, but we're gonna try running freebies in it anyways.
That would be awesome. If you can get that up and running, feel free to poke at it in parallel. Hans could not make it today, but I have some news from him. He has reached out to Patrick with Oxide about why there's a CDDL slapped on their CPU ID work. In the context of that, while we're waiting for an answer, he kindly built me a binary that is hard-coded to a CPU I appear to need for running software that does a license check that I believe is against the CPU. I have that built. I will give that a try. shortly. I wanted to ask him about a review that's been around for some time that he produced, and I don't know what motivated that. It's been quite some time. I think you're all aware of feature incubation. There are, I suppose, other people I'd love to have involved with a conversation about VM bhyve. I have spent quite some time with it, poking at it, making it do things. Is there anyone here present using VM bhyve, or shall this wait until next week?
I
Yes,
have been
it's
using it on a
rescheduled.
different one. Yeah, it's kind of the older, like the standard kind of one that a lot of people use. Are there any specific questions you have?
So you are using VM bhyve?
On an old machine, but
On an old
I might
machine.
be able to answer. Yep.
Okay. I think it needs a few things to be a little more production friendly, but it was good enough for a basic VM. If you don't need, say, a custom path to a
Oh,
bhyve
I accidentally
executable,
direct
whatever.
message to Eva. How do I not direct message everyone?
When you hit that little blue pop-up, it should give you a list of all the
Okay, here we go.
different people. Okay.
Here we go. This is
Ooh.
running chemo on phone experience. Had to restart it how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Just to make it run.
Okay, interesting. Oh, so out of morbid curiosity, I will put that in there. To those listening, there is a pre-boot script I have generated here that you may find interesting. So I think the VM bhyve conversations can wait, but I do like your awesome curiosity on this hypervisor on your phone. Yes. Here's that output. And did you say you ended up with Graphene or a different build?
No, right now it's LineageOS because
LineageOS.
Graphene does not allow you to access root at all. There's no debugging there, nothing.
Okay. Can you share what the phone hardware is?
It's Google Pixel 7. Can I run NeoFetch?
Oh.
We have Bash. Okay, Bash, bin fetch. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm getting a lot of errors.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the hardware. The CPU is just getting reported to us 8.
Phone uptime, of course. Oh, don't make me drag out my Pixel 7 Pro. No. Which doesn't need a new
I
roll in
wonder
life.
if you can still run QEMU on a rooted phone through Termux.
Yeah, I'm actually installing this on Termux.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Termux. Okay.
I'll download
Right.
Chemo on Termux. And I'm just using ADB to SSH into the phone through my PC.
Can you pin the QEMU process to the performance course?
Let me see. How do I do this?
Exactly, that's the question. I wouldn't know how to do it on FreeBSD, but I knew the CPU IDs for it.
To course.
On Linux. So you would have to set up some kind of CPU set.
Do you need to install libvirt?
Oh my.
Or you need to like
I
There's
think
like a
you would
whole
have to
Python-
create.
there's like a giant Python script for it. Oh no, I don't want that.
Um,
No.
Apparently, you do it through the sysfs or whatever to set up this FS group CPU set. To create it. So you have to have a C group CPU set mounted.
Huh?
Can you run mount on your Termux environment?
Yes, I can do mount.
And
If you want, I can screen share.
quick point of order. I shared that video of FreeBSD on Power, Open Power from EuroBSDCon that I mentioned earlier. It's in the doc, it's in the link. Shall we go down this rabbit hole? Maybe, I suppose we'll keep it recording insofar as people love this stuff. Go ahead and screen share. And
Yep, here we go. This is
Can you grab
the
for
output of
this
mount
in
command.
there?
This output of mount command. We have a lot of stuff here. Mount help. This just seems like, yeah, toy box.
Yeah, it's
Toy box
So-
core utils.
and if you run mount and pipe that into grep to search
Grep.
for sys.
Sys.
Okay.
SysFX.
Yeah, you have C groups file system mounted.
Wait, where's C groups?
are you trying to share?
Yeah,
I don't see
SysFS C
anything.
group.
SysFS C group.
Mm-hmm.
At all this.
And then apparently, let's see, it's
I'm going to mute. I've dropped a link to, do give us a place to hang out for KVM on Android. I found one post, but maybe you have a better one.
so there's apparently a CPU set.cpus.
Yeah, CPU. Wait. There's CPU.stat.
Mm-hmm. No,
Sys C
no,
groups.
yeah. So you probably, because it's a problem to even start it, you would probably have to try to create the C group and then exec into it, so that the shell changes its C group and then execs into QEMU. So if you want to get back into a shell, you would have to do it in a subshell.
Like a shell script.
Yep, exactly. The shell script should probably end in exec. So exec QEMU whatever. Yep. So and because the shell process doesn't need any special stuff, you could then try to, for example, restrict it to a single CPU by just putting in the CPU set.cpus file. You would write
Yeah, that's
just
how you do it.
comma separated
This is
ranges. So basically, lower element of the CPU.
Yeah, what does
Upper
this
and
mean?
so
Fail to put
put
registers
in
after
just-
init.
Alexei, are you hoping to share your screen or not?
Yes,
I have shared my screen.
you're
I
probably
see-
just not on the right tab in Zoom.
That could be. Oh, it's tabbed now? I saw an update, but oh, come on, Zoom. Okay, thank you. Oh, don't even. Great. Awesome. And of course, do you have a link for all of this
Okay.
that you're following so our readers and listeners can follow along?
Okay, can I?
I stumbled across the official kernel documentation on docs.kernel.org, admin guide C group version 2.
To set up Android? I don't think so.
No, not to set up Android, to set up C groups.
Okay, cool. Welcome, Levi.
Hello, hello.
We are pushing limits. We have gone through a whole bunch of updates and we've talked about all the non-AMD 64 platforms.
It does not want to do anything.
Talking
Sometimes I have to start
EK2.
QEMU for it to work. I need to close a random app on the phone so it does not take that specific CPU core.
Can you go into the C groups file system
Okay. SFS C
and
group.
cut, and then try to run this command?
Let me open Zoom. CPU set CPUs. Okay, let's CD. There's no CPU set CPUs.
Interesting. Wait, drip. Oh, it's
CPU.start.
maybe it's in proc pit. So you would go to /proc $.
Oh, $. Yeah, there's CPU set slash.
That's probably everything. So just for testing purposes, write maybe echo 0-1 into there and write it into CPU set.cpus.
Not such file or directory.
Can't create. I don't know what happened when you created the CPU set file. Did
And I
that
cannot do it
exist?
to CPU set. It's
Add CPU set?
yeah, it's
Oh, it's failed. Okay.
CPU. It's called
Is
1.
that,
Oh, God.
maybe it's a directory, CD CPU set?
Mm,
No, not a directory.
Interesting.
Mark, welcome.
Maybe that functionality isn't not available. Let's have a look.
Okay, while you two work that out, Mark, do you have any insights on the state of open power on FreeBSD?
That PKVM enable. I have not done PKVM enable in my bootloader. Do I need to reboot there and do that?
They
I'm
are
just
hacking on
rebooting
a
from
phone to do
bootloader.
KVM. Okay, so can you two either jump to chat or some other mechanism or Discord to go through that? It's very exciting, but it's not bhyve.
Okay.
And
Sure.
then we'll talk
Yeah,
PowerPC
let's
for
do
a
that
second here.
another time.
It's
I have to
freaking
run.
awesome, but it's
Okay.
let's get through these FreeBSD issues and Lumos issues. Mark, let's see, working our way outward, Eva has a Talos system, I believe, a few of them, in fact, and I believe that, Eva, correct me if I'm wrong, that is considered open power rather than PowerPC 64, like an old Mac or something.
Yeah, so the Talos ones are just regular PowerPC. They're Power 9, like from IBM. So they're PPC 64 LE, but they can also run in big mode if one is so inclined. The Talos that I have is a dual socket. What is it, 144 cores. And that one's just down the street in storage, so I can go down and get it whenever. And then the other ones that I have are IBM LC 922s, and those are 128 cores, and those are in the data center, and they're currently racked. So those are probably, well, it depends on whether or not one considers it to be more accessible in the data center or going
Okay.
to the storage unit and grabbing one. It really depends on what we want to start it with, like the ones that are in the data center, I'm having remote hands upgrade the network cards. So that can be done, like probably next week, I guess. And then we can start using them remotely. So that's one way to do that. The Talos 9 that is here in Chicago, I would bring it and put it into my rack right next to my desk. And then that would be a whole, usage scenario. But if we're going to have a bunch of people using them, or not just necessarily a bunch, but if we want online consistent access, it's probably more relevant to use the ones in the data center.
Okay.
So that's fine. Yeah. There's a bunch of them. There's basically 4 in the data center that are the IBM ones. And there's the one Talos that's here.
So Eva?
Yeah.
As I wrote you via chat, Robert is interested in getting access to this type of system.
Who is?
For Robert Klausek, FreeBSD ports committer.
All right.
And he also wrote the assembler string processing functions for AMD 64 and mentored the ARM port of those functions, so that we have SIMD accelerated string functions in libc, which work well for short strings, not just for multi-megabyte strings like the ones in glibc. And he's interested in porting that work to PowerPC and in general adding support to more architectures in a usable state.
That sounds like a good plan.
So I wrote you his FreeBSD org email address if you want to reach out.
Yeah, I was just
SSH
putting
will
mine
probably
in
work
there.
fine.
Yeah. Let's see.
Mark, in the course of this, Jan noticed that any binary builds seem to be from February of last year. I am curious if, say, VM images could be built for PowerPC 64, and basically anything else you can teach us about the status of this platform.
So, Justin Hibbets is
Yep.
the person really that's the person to ask. Asking me about the status of the taluses that are racked up by FreeBSD is not something you want to do because I might give you an answer.
We have heard your answer off the record before, and I think it's a perfectly reasonable answer.
The thing, without any political or judgment value things whatsoever, is that allegedly those two machines, which are idle right now, need to have their firmware updated. And if you update the firmware, you're going to need to do that from the console. And I'm going to put a period, full stop. If anybody wants to borrow a machine, I can fire up the thing that's collecting dust over in the corner, you know, if they just want to tinker around with something.
That Power 8 or 9?
No, it's the low-end Talos machine. So double core but single socket, I think. So for like 18 cores or something like that. So I was really very enthusiastic about tier 2 on FreeBSD for a long time, and then finally just ran out of gas on it. So anybody need any Spark gear?
So Mark,
if someone wants to email me offline about the status of the two machines that are at NYI, I will give them a little bit more information. Well, I will tell them who to ask. Okay, and that's probably about it, because this is a big red button for me. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about those machines right now either. So
you've been burned before. We understand.
So, do you recall there being any progress on power architecture and bhyve?
I do not.
Okay. Bringing it full
Justin
circle.
would be the one to ask.
Got it. About all things power and bhyve. Okay, great. Thank you for that update. We didn't want to speculate. There was a good talk at EuroBSDCon Vienna. I don't know where people hang out relating to this.
There used to be an IRC channel that was PowerPC or PowerPC 64. I don't remember which network was on it even anymore.
Okay.
The last time I was on it was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
I would certainly like to see more effort put into the PowerPC platform.
You and Eva have that in common from what I can tell.
Okay.
Now, I trust you've taken a little break, and I could use one. You've had a lovely place on the agendas about your patch QA. Do you have an elevator pitch update on how the response has been and
there hasn't been much response because I haven't really advertised it because I wanted it to be a little further along in beta. And I have now proven to myself that the algorithm in the code that I used from GitHub, it's a FreeBSD port that wraps Python around everything and does this lovely little job of wrapping in objects and all this stuff. The patch does not actually work right. It does not fuzz. And I was trying to figure out I haven't looked much inside that person's code because I wanted to not write that code because I wanted to write only the code that I needed to write. And so it will tell you that these files don't match, but then go ahead and patch them anyway. And the fuzz variable seems to have nothing to do with the code that does the patching. So I'm going to have to take 2 steps back and just comment that out and comment in running patch itself. and see if that's better. So frustrating, but there it is. And in the meantime, I've continued to rebase patches and clean up patches, and for the ones that I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on, I've gone ahead and asked the submitters. And some of them are some of the PRs are too confused to matter. So I'm down to 555 PRs that the algorithm cannot fix up all by its own. About half of those are patches where somebody has sent a patch to the work directory of the port, but not done the work to create the patch in the work directory to a patch in the port steer itself, which is in the files subdirectory. And that's not something I intended to automate, and I'm not sure it can be easily automated. So there's progress, but there's a lot of frustration from n different inputs. And so it's continuing, but not today.
Cool. Are you a wiki
But thank-
admin?
But thank you for asking. Yes, I am the wiki admin.
You
and
are.
I'm the bug master.
Eva, was it you who needed wiki access and possibly Alexei?
Yes, that is correct.
You need the password reset, as I recall. Could you two connect? And Mark, coming your way is Eva, who is very much interested in all things power and has, I guess, an expired account of in some way on the wiki. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. I'll send an email.
Great. Thank you. And Alexei, I know you've succeeded in getting, say, reviews and bugs accounts up. Did you make any progress with a wiki account?
Wiki account? No.
Do you want one?
Probably no for now.
Okay, fine.
Okay, what did I hear about Eva and the SSH access to the PowerPC machine?
Yeah, if you want to email me, we can get that conversation started.
Okay. Let me find the email. It should be somewhere over here. Oh,
It's pretty easy. It's my name, basically. Just Ava at
Zoom keeps
winterstream.com.
just jumping around.
And do very much discuss VPN options before you proceed too far. And Alexei
Probably
can explain
WireGuard.
why.
If you want layer 2 access, zero T is also quite well supported on FreeBSD and feels almost like a real Ethernet for stupid applications like local service discovery.
That was purely a global politics question, not a technical one.
Oh,
So, Mark, any other topics while we are blessed with you? If
No.
you want to hear the actual politics, you have easy. Okay, cool. Thank you. Your timing was perfect. We were wondering who to talk to about wiki access, and thank you for that. That beyond all these things I've been working on VM bhyve, which can wait, does anyone else have topics? I have a whole bunch of Windows feedback on how to virtualize Windows, and at the very end there, feature parity with Lumos, syntax output, but that can wait. So that said, do we want to get back to KVM on a phone hacking, or do you two want to do that individually and report back? And if anything, Alexei, do you have a single link that one can jump to and at least try to follow your footsteps on KVM on
No, not
Graphene,
really.
whichever OS it was? Okay, so you've had to just figure this out from countless blog posts and wikis and whatnot?
I mean, really,
No
I just
tutorial?
figured out that you have /dev/kvm on phones.
Okay.
That you can run ARM64 QEMU, and it
Okay.
sometimes runs.
Got it. For what it's worth, at least this link was somewhat nicely formatted.
It's some built-in virtualization program that only runs Linux kernels.
I see.
For the device, you need to erase all the data on the phone to root it.
Okay.
That means just to get access to the root user. Create a rootfs. That's they're just creating like an Ubuntu machine. an Ubuntu root OS.
Okay. What does gvisor refer to?
I don't know.
Okay, so that's maybe something that would help. Maybe. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Build the kernel. Yeah, we know that. Root the device. Let's take a look. Blah, 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 blah. Gvisor. Containers. Gvisor tap vsub. Interesting. Without a link. Okay, well, that was interesting and exciting. Anything else at this time? Or I hear you pounding away at the keyboard. Any new discoveries on your phone?
No, I'm sending the SH key over to
Okay,
Eva.
cool. Well, that's cool. Ivan, was this exactly what you were expecting?
Well,
And do you want to introduce yourself?
hello.
No pressure at all. Go ahead. And
um,
Alexi, I'll mute you for the keyboard clacky. Go ahead, Ivan. Ivan, anything to share or still just listening in?
can you hear me?
Yes, can right now. Perfect.
Well, I know Alexei here, who's in the
Ah.
call, and
Cool.
well, I've watched some of the previous recordings. I'll be honest, I don't really even use bhyve or FreeBSD to much extent, but I just like to listen to this kind of technical discussion, really.
Cool. Awesome. Appreciated. Well, what's your primary platform, if I may?
I use Linux currently, Gentoo.
Cool. Well, welcome, and yeah, feel free to just listen in as appropriate. Going down the list, Levi, anything of interest to you here? New things to report? Virtualization successes?
Other than my home lab being now all bhyve, nothing so far.
Cool. You have a certain day job. I understand they're using Proxmox, a little birdie told me. Do you think that could move to bhyve, or are there barriers that would prevent that still?
Currently, there's nothing stopping us from doing that, and I'm planning on doing that in production.
Okay.
The only real concern at this point is stuff like the OVA templates or pre-created VMs. Most of them are still BIOS only. So
That came up earlier. So let's briefly discuss that. What are some real world use case examples, like your time clock manager or something?
yeah, I think Zabbix has a pre-built appliance, but I've tested it and it seems to be only BIOS mode.
Okay. Is that it? And any others that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head for my direct use case.
Okay, because often, gaming comes up because there's a really cool game we love from long ago that only runs on Windows 6 or whatever, 5 or 4, 3, 2, 1, 95, Vista, whatever.
I mean,
Yes, Jan.
the latest GPUs don't even support BIOS mode anymore because they don't have a vBIOS for BIOS booting. So yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Aren't supporting BIOS boot and
But that's not really an issue because the systems where those GPUs make sense don't support it either, because Microsoft and Intel decided that the BIOS has to die.
And Alexei, it sounds like you confirmed that EDK2 CSM is definitely dead, out of the tree. Have a nice day.
Yeah, most definitely.
Got it. Yes, EDK2 CSM is out of the tree. Okay, that was briefly an option on bhyve, and then it wasn't. Levi, is something like QEMU fast enough for what you're doing? Imagine I've just generated QEMU scripts to do, say, ARM64 on Intel, etc.
That would probably be sufficiently fast, but I'm trying to make it to where the others, my other IT people, have an easy way to look at it and just say, okay, VM list, and it just shows everything that's currently running.
So would having, say, VM bhyve have a QEMU hook be helpful insofar as the user doesn't quite know what's running?
That would probably be just fine.
You didn't hear that from me, but for the things I'm having to dance around right now, VM bhyve QEMU hook, for lack of a better term. Okay. I think we are just past a moose jaw, which is a time flying from Portland towards Ottawa for BSDCan, which is coming up. The talk should be posted shortly. It's a great list of talks. I hope to see you all there if possible. And that's 90 minutes from Portland, if you're wondering. Other topics, questions, ideas, or shall we call it good and let Jan and Alexei work out their KVM on Android coolness to hopefully get FreeBSD booting on their phone, perhaps a Lumos too. Well, let's see. Levi, would you like the honors? And hopefully you know what I'm referring to.
Honors of like and subscribe.
That would be it.
Remember to let.
Everybody.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. I
Yep.
got the prompts right.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Levi. Well, take care, everyone. I'll be around a few minutes. Let's call it good for the official meeting and catch you next week.